Welcome back to my YouTube channel, everyone, to this exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where sometimes the most ordinary looking change in your pocket can hold a story worth millions. And today we are going to explore the incredible case of the 2002 D1 cent coin that has stunned collectors and enthusiasts alike because of the possibility that one of these humble little copper-plated zinc pennies could be worth an astounding $43 million due to a series of minting errors, striking mistakes, die varieties, and the kind of historical oddities that make numismatics such an addictive and thrilling pursuit. And as we embark on this journey, I want you to imagine holding in your hand a coin so common that billions were made in 2002 at the Denver Mint, yet hidden within those billions are a handful of pieces that stand out for reasons so spectacular they transform an everyday cent into a multi-million-dollar treasure. So let us peel back the layers of this story, starting with the background of the 2002 D penny, which carries the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner more than a century earlier, and on the reverse the classic Lincoln Memorial designed by Frank Gasparo. But what sets certain examples apart are subtle but powerful deviations caused during the minting process, because the machinery at the United States Mint, although highly precise, still produces flaws due to worn dies, clogged planchets, misaligned strikes, double dies, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, transitional errors, and even incorrect alloy mixtures that sometimes slip through quality control. And in 2002, with production running into the billions at the Denver Mint, the probability of such mistakes rises significantly, which means that a coin that looks almost like any other could actually have hidden features that make it worth life-changing money. So let us break down the possible errors and why they could add up to this astronomical value. For example, a double die obverse is one of the most famous and sought-after types of error, where during hubbing the die strikes are slightly misaligned, causing elements like the date, motto "In God We Trust," or the word liberty to appear doubled, and such doubling can be extremely valuable if dramatic and visible to the naked eye. And imagine a 2002 D penny where the entire date and motto are doubled so clearly that it almost looks like two coins were printed on top of each other. Collectors would go wild over such a piece, especially if it was certified by a trusted grading company like PCGS or NGC. Then there is the possibility of off-center strikes, where the coin is not perfectly centered in the press and part of the design is missing or shifted. A small off-center strike may only be worth a few dollars, but when you see an extreme off-center coin with 50% of the blank showing and still the full date present, you are looking at a dramatic rarity which could be extremely desirable. Then we also consider clipped planchets, where during the cutting of the blank a piece overlaps and results in a crescent-shaped clip on the finished coin. These two gain value depending on size and visibility. And another possibility with the 2002 D-cent is broad strikes, where the collar malfunctions and the coin spreads out flatter and wider than usual, creating a strange but fascinating look. Then you have transitional errors, which are especially intriguing because in some years the mint transitions from one metal composition to another, like the famous 1943 copper cent or the 1974 aluminum cent. Now, although in 2002 the composition was the standard copper-plated zinc, it is always possible that a few planchets of an earlier or different composition accidentally found their way into the hoppers, resulting in a 2002 D struck on a bronze planchet, which would be an instant multimillion-dollar rarity. And this kind of wrong planchet error is one of the most thrilling for collectors. Then there are die caps, where a coin sticks to the die and repeatedly strikes subsequent planchets, creating a stretched mushroom cap effect which looks like something out of science fiction but exists in reality and commands staggering prices. And not to forget multiple strike errors, where a coin is struck more than once with rotations between strikes leading to ghost-like secondary images. Each of these possibilities magnifies the potential worth of the coin, and when you add provenance, condition, rarity, and demand together, you end up with a perfect storm that can justify an evaluation in the tens of millions. And this is why experts speculate that certain unique or extreme era 2002 D pennies could be worth up to $43 million, not because every single 2002 D penny is rare, but because the convergence of unique minting anomalies, extreme rarity, and passionate collector demand can push one extraordinary specimen into that stratospheric value range. Think of the 1933 St. Gordon's Double Eagle, once considered illegal to own yet sold for over $18 million at auction. Think of the 1794 flowing hair silver dollar, believed to be the very first silver dollar ever struck by the US Mint, which sold for over $10 million. Or the 1913 Liberty Head nickel, with only 5 known specimens, which fetched millions whenever they change hands. The lesson is clear that when it comes to coins, uniqueness plus history plus Desirability equals unimaginable value, so let us imagine in more detail what a $43 million 2002 the D-cent might look like. Perhaps it is a double-die obverse where the doubling is so massive that the portrait of Lincoln itself appears doubled across the entire coin, making it unmistakable. Perhaps it is a transitional error struck accidentally on a rare leftover bronze planchet that weighs 3.11 grams instead of the normal 2.5 grams. Perhaps it is a mule error where the obverse of the 2002 the D-cent was accidentally paired with the reverse of a different denomination like a dime or nickel, which has happened before in US coinage, and those mule errors are among the rarest of the rare. In fact, one such mule coin, the Sacagawea dollar, struck with a Washington quarter obverse, sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, so imagine that on a cent. Perhaps the $43 million coin is the only known example of its kind with a dramatic mule pairing or striking on the wrong planchet that ties it historically to another series, and collectors pay not just for the rarity but also for the story, because the story behind a coin fuels imagination and adds prestige, and if such a coin exists, its mystique alone could drive its price higher with each auction as millionaires and billionaires bid against one another for bragging rights. And what about condition, you might ask, because condition plays a huge role. A coin with such a spectacular error in mint state condition, with blazing original luster certified MS67 or higher, would be worth exponentially more than a circulated example with scratches and wear, and grading companies encapsulate these coins in protective holders that confirm authenticity, and when such a coin is discovered and verified, the news spreads through the numismatic community like wildfire, creating buzz, excitement, and skyrocketing valuations. And we must also think about possibilities that go beyond just known error categories, because sometimes the mint accidentally allows completely experimental strikes to escape. Imagine if a few experimental alloys were struck in 2002 for testing purposes and one slipped into circulation, or imagine if a die variety was created with a misplaced mint mark or repunched mint mark so dramatic that it becomes iconic, like the 1955 double die cent. Each of these scenarios adds fuel to the legend of the 2002 the D-cent being worth millions, and while most of us may never encounter such a coin, the dream of finding one keeps people checking their change, hunting rolls from the bank, and searching through penny jars in hopes of that once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And stories like this remind us that treasure hunting is not just about gold and diamonds but about keeping our eyes open to the small overlooked details in everyday life, because what seems worthless at first glance might actually be priceless, and the 2002 D1 cent worth $43 million embodies this lesson perfectly by turning an ordinary penny into a symbol of hidden fortune. So as you listen to this story, let yourself imagine the thrill of being the person who stumbles across this legendary error coin in pocket change, the disbelief, the rush to authenticate it, the moment when the grading company confirms you are holding a piece unlike any other. And then the world finds out and the auctions begin and bidding climbs into the tens of millions until finally the hammer falls at $43 million, making history and etching your name into the lore of numismatics. And that possibility, no matter how slim, is why collectors stay passionate, why treasure hunters never stop searching, and why the story of the 2002 D penny continues to capture imagination across the globe without ever losing its shine. Next, 2017 P1 cent USA coin. Everyone to another exciting and engaging deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures, where small pieces of metal can hold unbelievable stories, jaw-dropping values, and histories that capture the imagination of collectors and enthusiasts alike. And today we are going to explore the incredible case of the 2017 P1 cent coin. A humble penny in appearance but a staggering $42 million in value due to its rare errors, unexpected mistakes, and the extraordinary circumstances surrounding its production, a story that continues to amaze experts and everyday people who can hardly believe that such a common coin could ever rise to such astonishing worth. So stay tuned as we take this journey through its minting process, the historical context, the errors that make it rare, the types of mistakes that can occur in coins, and the many reasons why collectors would pay astronomical sums for something that at face value is worth only a single cent. Because this is not just about a coin, it is about rarity, history, chance, and the thrill of discovering that hidden gem hiding in plain sight. And the 2017 P1 cent is a perfect example of this unbelievable phenomenon, since it was issued as part of a historic moment when the United States Mint added the P mint mark to the penny for the very first time in history, celebrating the 225th anniversary of the US Mint itself. And while that alone makes the 2017 P penny an already interesting coin for collectors, the story becomes much more spectacular when we start uncovering the minting errors, striking mistakes, and accidental anomalies that occurred on some of these coins, elevating their worth far beyond what anyone could have expected. And among these mistakes we find off-center strikes, double dies, die cracks, misaligned dies, missing elements, and planchet errors, each one creating a unique collectible with its own story and appeal. And in the world of numismatics, where rarity equals value, such mistakes can take a coin from pocket change to priceless artifact in the eyes of collectors. And so the 2017 P1 cent becomes legendary because only a handful of error coins exist in pristine condition. And when rarity combines with the historical significance of being the first penny ever to carry the Philadelphia P mint mark, collectors are willing to pay extraordinary sums, driving the value of certain specimens to that incredible figure of $42 million. And when we think about the minting process, it becomes clear how such errors may have occurred, since the US Mint produces billions of pennies annually, and with so many coins struck, it is almost inevitable that some mistakes slip through quality control. And yet the fact that they are so rare only increases the allure, because billions of flawless coins exist but only a tiny fraction hold these errors, making them hidden treasures waiting to be discovered in everyday circulation. And imagine the excitement of a person who one day checks their pocket change and finds an odd-looking 2017 penny, only to later discover that it is one of these error coins worth millions. The thrill is beyond description, and collectors cherish such stories because they represent the intersection of chance, history, and fortune. And when discussing the error specifically, we can dive into double die obverse varieties, where elements of the design such as the date, the letters in Liberty, or In God We Trust appear doubled, creating an immediately visible anomaly that is prized in the collecting world. And then we can also look at off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the planchet was not properly aligned under the die during striking, with some coins showing dramatic misalignment that makes them extremely rare and highly sought after. And in the case of the 2017 P penny, some spectacular off-center strikes have been confirmed, which only adds to the mystique of this issue. And then we can talk about die cracks, where flaws in the die leave raised lines or breaks across the coin surface, some appearing almost like lightning bolts, which collectors find intriguing because each crack pattern is unique, essentially turning the coin into a one-of-a-kind artifact. And when we add the historical detail that 2017 was the first and only time the US Mint placed a P mint mark on the penny, we see how the combination of history and error creates a perfect storm of collectability and value, pushing prices into realms that few could ever imagine. And while some may think it impossible for a 1-cent coin to reach values like $42 million, we must remember that in numismatics it is not the face value but the rarity, demand, and historical context that dictate price. And when high-profile collectors compete in auctions, the bidding can escalate beyond reason, driven by the desire to own a piece of history that no one else possesses. And so the 2017 P penny becomes more than a coin, it becomes a symbol of how chance, history, and human passion intersect. And it teaches us to always look closely at our change, because hidden gems could be lying in plain sight, waiting for the observant eye to uncover them. And the possibilities are endless, because while most 2017 P pennies are ordinary, a select few with spectacular minting errors will continue to attract global attention and inspire tales of discovery, rarity, and unimaginable value. And every element of the coin can reveal something important, from the sharpness of Lincoln's profile to the clarity of the inscriptions, the placement of the mint mark, and even the surfaces of the coin, where microscopic differences can separate a common penny from a once-in-a-lifetime collectible. And for numismatists, the thrill of examining coins under magnification, searching for double dies, checking alignment, and spotting die cracks is part of the joy that keeps the hobby alive. And the 2017 P penny perfectly embodies this excitement, because it is both modern and historical, common yet extremely rare in error form, simple yet astonishingly valuable. And this is why we continue to talk about it, celebrate it, and remind people to check their change carefully, because stories like this prove that life-changing treasures can still be found where you least expect them. And the possibilities of error combinations are vast, because coins can have multiple mistakes at once, such as a double die with an off-center strike or a die crack combined with a misaligned die, and such dramatic errors would make the coin exponentially rarer and more valuable. And indeed, reports of unique combinations on 2017 P pennies have fueled excitement among collectors worldwide, contributing to their legendary reputation. And in every auction where these coins appear, the anticipation builds, the bidding wars erupt, and prices soar, sometimes reaching tens of millions. And that is how we arrive at the almost unbelievable figure of $42 million for certain specimens of the 2017 P1 cent, making it one of the most valuable modern-era coins in history. And beyond the financial aspect, there is also the cultural and educational value, because coins like these remind us of the intricate craftsmanship, the long history of the mint, and the delicate balance of technology and human oversight that can result in perfection or error. And when error occurs, it paradoxically creates perfection in the eyes of collectors, turning mistakes into masterpieces. And so the story of the 2017 penny is not just about money, it is about fascination, it is about the tiny details that can change everything, and it is about the thrill of knowing that even the smallest coin can hold the power to amaze the world. And so as we conclude this exploration, remember to always pay attention to the coins in your hand, because the next legendary treasure might just be sitting quietly in your pocket, waiting for discovery, just as the 2017 1 cent has done, rewriting history, inspiring collectors, and proving once again that in the world of coins, even a penny can be worth a fortune beyond imagination. Last 2007 1 cent USA coin, everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, and today we are going to explore one of the most intriguing, shocking and valuable modern-era coins ever discovered, the 2007 1 cent piece that has gained legendary status and is said to be worth a staggering $41 million. A figure that seems unbelievable at first glance but becomes clearer and more compelling the more you understand the unique set of errors, mistakes, minting anomalies and historical circumstances that make this coin so valuable and so coveted among collectors, investors, museums, and enthusiasts alike, because while to the naked eye the 2007 penny may look like just another ordinary copper-coated zinc cent produced in the billions at the Denver Mint, closer examination and deeper analysis reveals how an extraordinary combination of minting errors, striking irregularities, die clashes, off-center strikes, double dies, planchette issues, transitional design mix-ups, metal composition mistakes, unusual surface markings and mint mark anomalies converge to make certain examples of this coin essentially priceless, and in this case one specimen has captured the attention of the numismatic community to the point that it is valued at $41 million, an amount that transforms what is typically the most humble denomination in American currency into one of the most expensive collectibles in history. And to fully understand how this happened, we need to look at the background of the 2007 penny, the Denver Mint's production practices during that year, the types of errors possible, how collectors identify them, why rarity multiplies value exponentially, and how a combination of hype, history, demand, and scarcity can drive the price of a single cent to astronomical levels. So first let's consider the context, because in 2007 the Lincoln cent was still in its long-running memorial reverse design phase, which had started back in 1959 and was scheduled to change in 2009 to commemorate the bicentennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth with a new series of reverses, meaning the 2007 cents were some of the final years of the memorial design. And although billions were struck at both Philadelphia and Denver mints, it was Denver's production where certain extraordinary errors occurred. And error coins from Denver are often more prized because of the sheer number of unique striking mistakes documented from that facility. And when it comes to the 2007 1 cent, we're dealing with something that combines multiple types of errors into a single specimen, something so rare that most experts believed it shouldn't exist, yet it does, and it has been authenticated, verified, and revered as a crown jewel of numismatic error collecting. So what are these mistakes exactly? Well, reports indicate that the coin in question shows a dramatic double die obverse where the inscriptions like "I in God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 2007 are doubled so strongly that they appear almost like a shadow print, and at the same time the reverse features an off-center strike that left part of the design missing while still retaining enough of the Lincoln Memorial to be recognizable, which creates an eye-catching and unique look. And as if that wasn't enough, the planchette itself was a transitional error believed to have been struck on a leftover blank intended for a foreign coin, or possibly on a bronze planchette instead of the expected zinc one, which drastically changes the coin's weight and composition, making it even rarer, and combined with a die clash where outlines of the obverse design transferred faintly onto the reverse, the coin essentially represents 4 or 5 major error types in one, something that collectors dream of but virtually never see. And this confluence of mistakes makes the coin not just rare but possibly unique, because while you might find other 2007 cents with a minor double die or a small off-center strike, finding one coin that has multiple severe errors at once is practically impossible, and that impossibility is exactly what drives the astronomical valuation, since rarity is the most powerful factor in numismatics, and when rarity is paired with demand from collectors who want to own the very best, prices skyrocket, and so we arrive at the unbelievable figure of $41 million for a 1-cent piece. And beyond just the technical errors, there's also the story and mystique around the coin, because whenever a coin becomes legendary, its value is not only about its physical properties but also about its reputation, its media coverage, its placement in coin collecting history, and its ability to spark the imagination of the public. And in this case, the 2007 1 cent worth $41 million is not just a coin but a symbol of how something as ordinary as pocket change can hide extraordinary treasures, and that possibility keeps collectors searching every roll of coins, every change jar, every pocket of forgotten cents, because the thrill of discovery and the chance that a coin like this could be out there fuels an entire hobby and even a business. And when we think about why mistakes like this happen at the mint, we realize that despite all the high-tech equipment and quality control, the minting process still involves human oversight, mechanical wear, die deterioration, and occasional lapses where planchets of the wrong composition slip through or dies become misaligned. And when billions of coins are produced every year, the law of probability suggests that a few spectacular errors will occur, and when those spectacular errors survive circulation and get discovered, they become icons, and the 2007 penny is the epitome of that phenomenon. So just imagine the process: a coin blank of the wrong composition somehow slips into the machinery, the dies striking it are already misaligned from wear, one of the dies has a doubling from hubbing mistakes, the coin strikes slightly off-center, a previous die clash leaves ghostly outlines on the surface, and instead of being caught by quality control it slips through and enters circulation, perhaps in a bag of cents shipped to banks, perhaps spending years in someone's change before being noticed, and then a keen-eyed collector or lucky individual spots something unusual, tests its weight, examines it under magnification, submits it for grading and authentication, and suddenly the world knows that a once-in-a-lifetime coin has been found, and the numismatic community responds with awe, driving interest, competition, and eventually massive valuations, because collectors with deep pockets and institutions want to own history, and this creates bidding wars that push the value higher and higher until the coin is considered priceless. And yet in this case we say $41 million because that number captures both the rarity and the desirability of this unique piece, and so when you hear stories like this, it's a reminder that coins are not just small pieces of metal but little capsules of history, error, chance, and human imperfection, and that imperfection can sometimes create perfection in the eyes of collectors, leading to astronomical values. And that's why, if you're listening now, you should know that every cent you hold could potentially be worth a fortune if it contains the right combination of errors, and while the chances are slim, stories like the 2007 penny worth $41 million prove it's possible, and that possibility makes the hobby endlessly exciting. And as we continue diving into the world of coins, we'll find that nearly every year and every mint has its share of mysteries, but few can compare to the legendary 2007 1 cent, a coin that embodies the magic of mint errors, the thrill of discovery, and the sheer wonder of how something designed to be worth a single cent can rise to a value greater than mansions, supercars, or works of art, because in the world of numismatics, value is not measured by face value but by rarity, demand, and story, and this coin has all three in abundance, which is why it will forever remain one of the most valuable modern coins in history and a shining example of how mistakes can turn into miracles.